Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to another edition of The Winning Drive. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis, joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, the young phenom, CJ Vogel. Coach Bob Shipley is traveling today, so he won't be joining us, but he'll be back on with the crew on Monday. Thank you guys for joining us. First and foremost, really appreciate you guys and all your participation on the show. You know how it works. We'll try to answer as many of your questions as we can. Super chats jump to the front of the line. They can interrupt the show at any time. We'll get into, of course, the CJ Baxter injury, but we'll hear from Steve Sarkisian, who spoke about the CJ Baxter injury for the first time when he spoke to the media. My man CJ was there, so we'll get his thoughts about what Steve Sarkisian had to say overall. Most of those questions, of course, were about CJ Baxter. Also, there are a couple of other topics, Longhorn-related topics that I want to get into and get CJ's thoughts on, so we'll do that, of course. But first and foremost, thank you guys for joining us. We see everybody's really excited, as you should be. So say, guys, Team USA is losing by 11 points at halftime to Serbia. Say what? That's crazy. All right, now I'm concerned. I have to turn the TV on. My TV is not on right now. I had to get the TV on just so I can check out. I will say, speaking of Olympic action, before we get started, because I know we got to get into the CJ Baxter conversation. That's a little bit sad, a little pessimistic for Longhorn fans. Here is a little pick-me-up. Longhorns now have a medal count. The lifetime Longhorns who are participating in the Olympics, 14, ladies and gentlemen. My man John Bianco got us updated, CJ. 14 medals, including a 5th gold medal. Just today, they had a 5th gold medalist. So the University of Texas representing. I believe they'd be like 15th in the world at the University of Texas.
That's not too bad.
It's not bad. Not bad at all. So that's a good positive note. I know you keep up. CJ, you watch, I'll give you credit, man. You watch more random sports than anybody I know. And I don't know if it's because you're betting on them or it's because you got a passion for sports or both. But I know you've been paying a lot of attention to the Olympics.
Yeah, definitely. It's killing me right now not to be able to watch what's going on with this USA basketball game. To be losing to Serbia, this is crazy. It's crazy. By 15, man, come on.
Right.
So whatever the sport is, I mean, you only get these big events on the big stage once every 4 years. So I love it. Oh, look at that. You got to overcome.
Come on, man. What? Okay, I got to turn this on. This is crazy. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a bit distracted. I got to bed and watch
not
this.
Good. That's not good.
And you know what the crazy part is? Yeah. Well, I got a lifetime Longhorn. I mean, KD is the all-time leading scorer, right, for Team USA in the Olympics. So I'm gonna need my man KD and LeBron to step it up here.
That's right.
All right, let's get to our sport, the one that we have so much passion for. Let's talk some football on the show, Jim. It's time to get to it. You were there at the media availability, Steve Sarkisian. What was his mood? Did mood seem different with the devastating news of CJ Baxter being out for the season? Did he seem a little bit deflated?
Yeah, maybe a little bit at first, right? It's always tough when that's the conversation that you have to start, all of the press conference with, right? That's a big blow for Texas. And, CJ Baxter, he mentioned is one of the, hey, Rod, we got a big guest in the chat right here. That's 2026 Texas commit Chris Stewart out of Shadow Creek, big-time ball player. In this fall, but what's up, Chris? Thanks for tuning in. I did want to say, about Sarkisian's presser, it's tough. Injuries are an unfortunate part of the game. I mean, and for Baxter, a guy who is expected to be one of those big-time playmakers this year for the team, to be out for the entire season, I mean, that's tough. It's tough for the locker room. It's tough for the offense. It's tough for the running back room. Fortunately, Sarkisian came out and said that the practice went very well today. The mood has maintained a positive edge. This group is very focused. The way I liked how he described practice today was they came out with a lot of intent. And, we hear that at times as coach speak, but he elaborated, focused on what's at stake with no more CJ Baxter. That running back room is very together with that one heartbeat kind of approach. Tashard Choice is going to get that room right. And you can absolutely guarantee that group is going to be up to par with what you expect coming into the room, even without CJ Baxter. So I'm excited, to see what this group will do on the field. Offensive line is going to be a big part of this as well. But going into the scrimmage on Saturday, all steam ahead. Nothing's going to change in terms of the setup, the way that game is being played. It's going to be hands off, let the players play, let the coaches coach. I'm excited to hear what comes out of it.
Yeah, it seems like now there's even more importance placed on that scrimmage, specifically with the running back position now. Those young bucks, Christian Clark and Jared Gibson, had to make sure those guys expedite their development a little bit, accelerate their development. You need one of those guys to separate. And I feel like, and I've heard people talking about, the skill of those young backs, and I'm sure they are very skilled. I mean, they wouldn't be here if they weren't. I'm less concerned about them and their ability to tote the rock. I think behind that offensive line, those young bucks, even today, you see that's one of the skills or one of the positions that translates really quickly and really well to the college level is running back. So you can get a freshman running back that I think can tote the rock and really be effective. That's not where the learning curve is. It's going to be in pass protection. It's going to be in ball security.
Yep.
And because of all the moving parts in Sark's offense, a lot of the motions and the shifts, as much as any team in the country, it's going to be about being assignment and alignment sound. So those are things that are coming way before just toting the rock, before he can even just get to the point of, hey, man, they look good when they're toting the pill. Can they pass protect? How's the ball security? And in the scrimmage, for me, alignment and assignment sound, because you don't need a lot of pre-snap penalties because you got a young running back out there and he doesn't know the cue from Quinn. He doesn't know where to be because of all the different moving parts on offense. To me, those are the three key areas in the scrimmage that you're going to need those running backs to all, achieve at a high level. That is those areas. And if not, I think it's going to be hard for them to earn the trust of the coaches.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, I've seen some arguments that Texas has trusted, young backs in the past, specifically CJ Baxter, this time a year ago to tote the rock often and early in their career, right? Yeah, we saw CJ Baxter be that first back out with the starting 11 not too long ago, right? The thing I would say that's a bit different, we're hearing right now about Ryan Wingo the same way that we were hearing about CJ Baxter a year ago. And I'm not to say that, the other two running backs, the two freshman running backs are doing poorly. I'm just saying the returns that we were hearing around this time a year ago was, whoa, we've got ourselves a hell of a ball player right now with CJ Baxter. That helped expedite and win the job over what was expected to be a third-year contributor in the system in Jonathan Brooks, right? That's why that conversation's a bit different in my eyes right now than what we saw a year ago. Again, for, Jared Gibson, who I've heard is maybe a tick or two ahead of where Christian Clark is, in large part because of what he was able to accomplish and develop at IMG Academy. Again, the college game is not one that you're expected to, as a freshman, come in and dominate right away. You just don't see that very often. Fortunately, running back is a position, as you mentioned earlier, Rod, where you can have youngsters come in, understand that they're on the field for a play or two or three, do their job, not maybe get too over their shoes or over their cleats in terms of what they're asked to do, and then come off the field and kind of continue that platoon. So I think that's encouraging, again, just to have four bodies, capable bodies in the room at the moment. You can pick and choose what you want of them each time that they're on the field without giving away too much of your identity. And of course, fortunately for Texas, Tashard Choice is pretty good at what he does.
I mean, there's not a lot of coaches, running back coaches around the country that can say, hey, in one draft, I had 2 first-round running backs drafted in the NFL draft, both guys who I recruited and guys who I coached and developed. When it comes to Jahmyr Gibbs, that's a great graphic right there. But when it comes to Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson in that same draft, I don't know if there was any coach that could argue that, just because of how crazy and strange that is. But that's how good the short choice is. And the stat that my man Matthew just put up there too. I mean, he's had 2 running backs selected and drafted in each of the last 2 drafts. I mean, guys, I cannot express this enough. Running back has been devalued in the NFL. Y'all know that. Running back has been devalued for the most part. They don't draft running backs as high as they used to in the NFL draft. They don't pay them as much as they used to in the NFL. They don't even draft as many running backs as they used to in the NFL. As a matter of fact, you go look at theirs. I mean, you got how many running backs in the NFL make over $20 million a year? I think it's like one.
One, maybe.
I don't actually, I don't know if it's one. I think that's 0, maybe 0 at this point.
Yeah, I don't think McCaffrey got that much.
I don't think running backs don't get that. Money. Yeah, you got 20. There are 21 wide receivers right now that make at least $20 million a year, guys, and not one running back. The NFL does not value the running back.
Oh, position. This is great. Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, $19 million. They're making Tim Hardaway Jr. money right there. The best running back in the entire NFL.
Right there, guys. Guys, there are 21 wide receivers making $20+ million a year, 20 quarterbacks, 13 interior D linemen, 12 edge rushers, 10 tackles, 4 guards, 3 cornerbacks, and 1 linebacker and 1 safety, not one damn running back. And yet Texas has had 2 running backs drafted each of the last 2 years and has had the first running back off the board the last 2 years. That's a hell of a sales pitch. And that tells me, guys, that running back room, it'll be fine. Historically, what are you talking about historically? Or are you talking about recently? I would put that running back room up against any running back room in the country, number one, but I'd also put up against any position group and position room in any program in the country. The culture is just that good. It'll be put to the test, though. It'll be put to the test, CJ.
Yeah, Matthew, if you don't mind putting back up that contract, that NFL contract, I wanted to make a quick point. Bobby Burton made a great point, a great practice observation. When you watch the running backs in practice, very rarely do you ever see a pass intended for these running backs hit the ground. You know, they have great hands. That's one of those things that Sarkisian and Coach Choice have been prioritizing in their evaluation of running backs at the high school level. Look at the guys at the very top here, right? Christian McCaffrey, we know what he can do out of the backfield. Alvin Kamara, 2 or 3 years ago, was one of the first running backs in 30 years to have 100 receptions in a single season. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon, what they can do out of the backfield when it's not just a handoff go in their direction. We obviously know what Bijan Robinson can do with his hands as well. That's what helps get you paid, and that's what helps NFL GMs and front offices kind of find that extra value in you. And right now, Texas is developing those guys that all have similar skill sets of, we can run the rock when it's handed to us, but even more so when we're out in the flats and we can use our speed or our size or our quickness to create a mismatch on a safety or a linebacker. I know that I'm going to haul in that Texas route, that curl, that outside, that go, whatever it might be. That's where I'm going to create my advantage right there. Thank you, Matthew, for showing that. But that's one of the big positives that I've heard so far about this running back room in its entirety.
Yeah, and that's what we're hearing about Trey Wisner a little bit, that he's a guy that's versatile, can do a lot of things. We know that about Jaden Blue, and Sark says the running back position, the most underutilized position in the passing game, so he likes to take advantage of that. Speaking of Sark, let's hear from Steve Sarkisian. We see your questions, guys, and we're going to get to those questions ASAP. We see the super chat, so we'll do that here in just a second. Let's hear from Steve Sarkisian first, though, about the run by Cedric Baxter and him no longer being with the team. First time we've heard Sark address the issue. Here is Steve Sarkisian, head coach of the Longhorns.
You know, obviously we got some unfortunate news coming out of practice the other day with Cedric Baxter being lost for the season. I hate it for the kid. The same way I talked about Leonga Lafau the other day. If you polled our team, who are the top 3 teammates on our team, Cedric Baxter would be in that top 1, 2, or 3 as well. And as much as we love him for the player that he is, we love him more for the teammate that he is. And our thoughts and prayers are with him. We're encouraged by all the doctors that he's going to make a really healthy recovery, and we'll have him back for next season. So again, from our perspective, we'll be okay. Naturally, we're going to have to make some adjustments, like anything. Anytime you lose a player, got to make some adjustments, but I think that's the value of trying to recruit at a high level, and the way we practice the way that we do with a lot of the 2 spots. A lot of our guys are getting reps, and so we're plenty deep enough to still be a very good football team. Again, we would love to have him, but that's the nature of football, and you have to be able to withstand and deal with injuries whenever they present themselves, whether they're in training camp or whether they're late in the season, potential playoff injuries and such. So that's why you have to develop your entire roster, and I think our staff's doing a really good job of that right now.
All right, that's Steve Sarkisian. Thank you very much for that, Matthew. This is unfortunately, he knows this is inevitable. He just didn't know what position it was going to come, and you don't know when it's going to come. You're hoping that it's not the first day of full pads at training camp, but this is the point of the talented depth, guys, and this is your depth will be tested, especially now that you're playing more games. Well, you hope Texas is playing more games because they're going to play multiple games in the postseason. So I think Sark and his staff, they were ready for it, just because they've been stockpiling those rooms with a lot of talent. But now that you lost a little bit of your talent advantage, you still got talented styles, are real talented. But obviously, Cedric Baxter was considered your top line running back, your workhorse running back. I do think ultimately you need more of a schematic, more of a strategic, and more of a tactical advantage. That's how unless these other guys, unless Jaden Blue steps up and Jaden Blue, hey, maybe he looks like one of the best running backs in the country, like Jonathan Brooks did last year. And we don't even have to worry about this. All this conversation is moot. Doesn't even matter. But if he, obviously, if he looks good but doesn't look like the best running back in the country, look honestly by like how Jonathan Brooks looked last year sometimes, I do think schematically and strategically, that's where Sark's got to fill in the gaps. And that's what the coaches are there for, to fill in that gap. And I think you're going to see some innovation, right? Some creativity from Sark in that regard to have a multi-pronged approach to solve the problem.
Yeah, definitely. There's three things really that I wanted to hit on the Baxter injury itself. First off, it happened on grass. So I know that there are some questions or maybe concerns whether or not Texas needs to uproot that turf at DKR now. It did happen on grass, the pure grass. I was actually really impressed with how short it was at the Dennis Fields. Whenever I walked, it felt like I was walking on a green for a big golf tournament, Rod. It was that cut, so it was impressive. Two, the injury, it was pretty freakishly. It occurred pretty freakishly, right? He was rolled up on by a player trying to make an extra effort. I'm sure I know plenty of the offensive linemen and some veteran guys in an offensive room maybe weren't too pleased with the way in which the hit or tackle took place, right? You're not necessarily supposed to be taking guys to the ground or going full contact right now. It's more of a thud, more of a, just kind of give a quick effort to make a tackle this early in spring or in fall camp. So maybe some feelings were, expressed at the time of the tackle. And then two, injuries are unfortunate, yes, but Texas last year was very fortunate to not have experienced many injuries. And I think after year one for Steve Sarkisian and this staff, they really took a great understanding of why practice is so important to get ready physically, but not go overboard, right? Remember what happened in 2021 around this time. You lose Isaiah Nayor and Junior Angelau to ACL injuries, in which they both occurred in the first scrimmage.
You're right.
And I think looking back, that was a big focal point for Sarkisian as we talk about players developing. Well, head coaches develop and runners of programs develop as well to understand that, hey, we need these guys, right? Could you imagine maybe having an Isaiah Nayor alongside an Xavier Worthy early on, or a Junior Angelau on that offensive line to help, boost that running group? It would have been tremendous. Unfortunately, those two go down. You saw what played out as a result. So I do think that it was one of those things in which the coaching staff probably wasn't at fault here. They've been great in terms of keeping players upright and healthy. It was a bit of a freakish thing and unfortunate, obviously, probably unlucky as well, if you want to throw another adjective in the mix there. But as we've said all along, you got four able bodies right now. And again, I'll be really interested to see, and this was another thing I took away from Sarkisian's presser, Rod. Does Texas move a body into that running back room after the scrimmage? He said that on Sunday when they get to the room and they watch film, they sit back and they have their big circle table conversations. Will there be any movement from maybe a different position offensively, maybe a spot on defense where there's a lot of wealth of talent? That'll be interesting. I'll be waiting until Sunday or potentially even Monday to figure out whether or not a body has been moved in that room at all.
Yeah, we talked about a little bit, and not a lot of your top wide receivers have the frame for it. But I've seen some people talking about Ryan Niblett may have more of the frame for it, and that he's a guy that in high school.
Yeah, he's built very similarly now to a current day Trey Wisner. So
I
don't hate that.
And he hasn't been mentioned a lot with the circle of trust of wide receivers. Maybe that could be a way for him to, get on the field.
Absolutely. I could see it.
Okay.
I'd entertain that 100%. Yep.
Hey, man. That's what I think the coaches have got to start thinking outside the box, and that's certainly an outside the box solution. All right, let's get to some of the super chats. Thank you guys for all the questions and the super chats. We'll try to hit as many of them as we can here on the Winning Drive. Longhorn Frenzy is up first. Longhorn Frenzy, thank you very much for the super chat. Says 4 years ago, I would have been worried about the running back situation. The culture that Sark and the staff have built, it truly is next man up. Running backs will step up and be productive. You know what? And thank you, Longhorn Frenzy, for the optimism and for the super chat. I'm starting to feel the same way. Like I said yesterday, I trust that certain things I trust, certain brands I trust when it comes to certain things. I trust Chick-fil-A and them nuggets. I trust Green Bay with quarterbacks. And I trust Texas with running backs. Guys, even when Texas was bad, we were producing good running backs. Texas was bad, had Malcolm Brown, in the backfield in the league. You had Fozzie Whitaker. Texas wasn't great, but hey, still had some NFL running backs. Deontay Foreman was winning the Doak Walker Award. Hell, he wasn't even making a bowl game. And he out there running through defenses. Texas always had good running backs, whether the program is down or whether the program is up, running back you. And that culture was here before to Short Choice and Stan Drayton. I'd put Texas historically, their running back room against any position group in the country historically, right? You got Earl Campbell, we got Ricky Williams, you got Seth Benson, Jamal Charles, Bijan Robinson. You got a lot of talent in that room. So yeah, I'm with you. I feel confident. I don't know how it's going to look, CJ, but I'm confident. Just like last year, Cedric Baxter goes down, Jonathan Brooks takes over. Jonathan Brooks goes down, Cedric Baxter steps up. So does Jaden Blue. I'm confident the culture in that room will rise to the occasion. I just don't know how exactly it's going to look. But I feel good. I feel good about it. I feel bad for CJ Baxter, but I feel good about the depth in that room and the culture in that room.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I also believe it was Sarkisian's or maybe Herman's final year where David Bendo was asked to move over to running back because you only had Roshan Johnson and who, right? There's not many bodies at all in that room. So when you go to that kind of category of, oh, now we really got to get somebody in the room desperately rather than let's see how we can get maybe another playmaker on the field. That typically lends to a deeper room, a deeper talent level. And Texas has recruited great, right? Jarrett Gibson, Christian Clark, two very talented running backs in this most recent class. So Longhorn Frenzy, I'm with you 100%. I do. These running backs will step up and they will be very productive. I know that we have a few kind of comments right now, Rod, about what to expect maybe statistically, total wise, from a Jaden Blue. I put up a quick poll on Twitter earlier today, and I tossed out the number 1450 for total all scrimmage yards.
Nice.
I believe the last time I checked, it was 57% said over. They would take the over for Jaden Blue this year at 1,450. That's a pretty substantial amount of yards. For reference, I believe is just under 1,420, 1,430 for Jonathan Brooks a year ago. There we go.
Yeah.
So that's 1,100 votes. 55% saying they're taking the over 1,450 scrimmage yards, all-purpose yards for Jaden Blue next year. I also don't expect him to be a big component on those return games. You have your wide receivers to do that. Keep him healthy and behind the line of scrimmage full time for me. But that gives you a pretty healthy idea of what Texas fans are expecting when it comes to Jaden Blue in 2024.
If that happens, then he's going to the league too, by the way. I mean, that's a responsible thing to do if you're a running back. You get a year like that, it's time for you to go to the league. And to your point about him not being on special teams, I believe Sark actually talked about that, essentially saying that he's going to have to be very mindful of using the running backs on special teams because of the injury to the running back position. They can't afford another one. So that you think about it, there's just such a domino effect to that injury. Now it's going to affects the pony package, would hurt my feelings, right? Not going to have as much pony package. It's going to affect your special teams now because Trey Wisner, who's supposed to be one of your champions on special teams, you're pretty much going to lose him. Wasn't he the starting gunner, I think, at one point for you? You're going to lose him because you got to walk back some of your running back activity on special teams. So it just has such a domino effect all across the entire team there. Thank you for the super chat there, Longhorn Frenzy. We'll get to another one, but let's first of all thank one of our sponsors. We're really excited to have our friends over at South Point Dodge as a part of the On Texas football family, and we really appreciate them sponsoring the winning drive. So Longhorn fans, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. Right now, they have a great sale going. Right now, over 50 50 Ram 2500s are all marked down with huge savings over at South Point Dodge. You can go check out their the lineup and go check out their great inventory at southpointdodge.com, or you can go there in person off of I-35 in South Austin and go check it out for yourself at southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge, Austin's automotive everything and your one-stop shop for all of your truck needs. At southpointdodge.com. Really appreciate them for sponsoring the Winning Drive, and they've signed up for football season, so excited about continuing our partnership with the great folks over at South Point Dodge. All right, let's get back to it. Another super chat here from Jerry's Jack Links. Appreciate you, Jerry. Thanks for the super chat. Really kind of you. Glass half full. It's easier for a young skilled position guy to step in and perform at a high level than a young non-skilled position guy. I can see Gibson actually having a pretty good year. I totally agree with you on that. Like I said, I think the three things which really have less to do with skill and more to do with acumen and just kind of your football IQ and how quickly they can grasp the game mentally and the playbook. I think number one for me is going to be pass protection. Can they be alignment assignment sound? Because Sark can't have a lot of pre-snap penalties, even though there's all this movement in his offense, all this shifting. He has to know where to line up. That's going to be important. Now, Quinn can help him with that, so that's not crazy. Like honestly, before the snap, Quinn can give him a reminder every time, hey, need you to line up in the flex. We're going to shift you into the backfield. So that actually is not that much of a thing, but ball security, which I think is more fundamentals and technique, ball security and pass protection. And if I'm Sark, and honestly, he probably already has done it in practice. As soon as those guys start getting their reps with the 2s and the 1s, I blitz the hell out of them. I don't know what your blitz rates are in practice, but when they're in the game, we're blitzing. We're coming after them because I need to know if they know where to line up and where to be, if they're going to know how to pick up the blitz, so we can start coaching them on pass protection. And I'd also tell my defense, get after that football, CJ. I need to strip it and rip it. Matter of fact, I don't even care about y'all tackling as much today. I want today to see if those young guys can hold on to the football, and if they can't, then we need to get on. We need to get on and make sure it's a priority. Those are things you want to test out early, and then you can start coaching them up on it early.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and again, I don't want to say fortunately, but if there was one position that has trended more so to being expendable in all of college or in all of football at every level, it is running back. And again, I'm not here to say I'm glad that an injury happened at one position versus another. It's not easy, but running back is one where you could see a smoother transition from a guy that maybe has a little less experience to a guy that you're expecting to be, one of your big time playmakers. We've seen it year in and year out. Each time Texas, to your point, Rod, that list of Longhorns at the running back spot is so deep because, well, that's the standard when you're the running back at Texas, is that you're going to be relied on very heavily and you're going to have a lot on your plate. These guys step up, and obviously we've seen some great success there. So I do look at Christian Clark, Jarrett Gibson as two guys that will make, almost a seamless transition with some of the nuanced, difficulties going to pass protection, blitz identification, et cetera. So that'll be really interesting.
Yep. Thank you very much, Jerry.
Hey, look at that.
Woo! There we go.
Easy win.
There we go. Man. I want to say I ended. Actually, I'm going to rewind this and see I have the game on. Did LeBron take over? Did LeBron just take over the game in the end? Is that what basically happened? That's all I need to know. Did LeBron
I don't know. It was probably him. I heard Curry had a great day. Hopefully KD did as well. But, yeah, we're moving on. USA, baby.
But yeah, that's amazing. Because last time I looked at it, they were down. I was like, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to get distracted and frustrated for the show. So I look at it. There you go. There you go. Jordan B had a good day. But, man, Steph, wow. 36 for Steph. Okay. Thank you, Steph.
You like this, Rod. I hope some of the chat likes this as well. So I bought roommate, quick story real quick before we move on. My roommate has his birthday 2 days ago. We're big, obviously, Olympic fans. We watch everything. We talk about everything. USA, whatever. We're doing a quick little bar crawl on Saturday for his birthday celebration. So we're dressing up in Team USA gear. We're taking, the tequila shots, the Irish car bombs, whatever. We're going down the list, and each bar will have a different themed country to them.
I got you.
That's what came in the other day. I'm gonna be wearing it. I'm gonna be supporting it all Saturday afternoon. So if you see me, don't say anything. But I got a USA team do-rag coming in.
Oh,
we'll be rocking all Saturday afternoon. I cannot wait.
Man, USA do-rag.
That's
Man,
right.
Respect.
Yep.
Respect. I need I need you to put a picture out of that if we don't get a chance to see it.
Oh boy.
I need you to
I probably would have worn it if the USA lost today. So thankfully they won. But I can't wait. I'm gonna be rocking the do-rag.
Oh man, I can't wait. Like I said, I'm gonna need a pic of that, man. That's gonna be classic. All right, getting back to it. Thank you guys for the questions, and thank you very much, Jerry's Jacqueline for the super chat. All right, getting back to it. We got a few questions here. I'm trying to answer as many of them as we can. This one is from Jedi Master Bevo. Thank you very much, Jedi Master Bevo. He says, Rod, how much single high safety is used by other SEC teams? That is just a raw, and this is just some of the raw numbers. I haven't went deep dive into detail about it, but from what I can gather, Bama is around 60. This is from last season. Bama's around 60%, Auburn's around 40%, Florida 56%, Georgia's around 46%, Kentucky 53%, Missouri 61%, Ole Miss is a little low at 37%. It's just single high looks. These are covered threes and your cover ones mostly. Tennessee at 48%, A&M at 63%, relatively high. Vandy's at 37%. Mississippi State's at 48%, and Oklahoma's around 40%. Those are just, like I said, raw numbers. I'm doing math quick in my head, and I was always told never to do math live on air. And so I didn't do it live with you guys, but I did it in my head, multitasking. So that also is something I probably shouldn't have done. But there's just some raw numbers for you there, Jedi Master Bevo. Keep in mind, Johnny Nansen coming to Texas. Arizona led the Power 5 in single high safety looks with a post safety, basically, what they call middle of the field closed, because that one safety has closed the middle of the field, right? Middle of the field open, that's two deep safeties because the middle of the field is open. In terms of closed field, post field safeties, Arizona, they were above 75%. Nobody in the Power 5 played as much single high as they did. So Texas, that Johnny Nansen influence, we're expecting to see more of that single high from Texas. Don't be surprised if we look up at those numbers at the end of next season and Texas leads the SEC or is one of the leaders in the SEC in single high. The interesting thing is right now their bread and butter coverage is match quarters. Gary Patterson influence for PK gave him the cliff notes on the Big 12 after that 2021 season and told him, listen, if you want to be able to keep up with these hybrid spread offenses in the Big 12, match quarters, cover 4, that's going to be your bread and butter. It was for Gary Patterson, and it has been for Texas since. Texas isn't elite at executing match quarters, but it does keep the shell over the defense, and it keeps an umbrella over the defense for them. So they've been playing that pretty much as I would say it's at a top 5 to 10 rate in the Power 5. Texas plays match quarters. So I think they'll still want to do that, but then now you're going to add in more man coverage and more cover threes, more maybe some fire zones in with the Johnny Nansen influence. All right, thank you, Jedi Master Bevo. Yeah, it's crazy, CJ, when you look at Johnny Nansen. And I mean, they basically played cover 3 more than any team in the Power 5, and they had single high safeties more than any team in the Power 5.
They had great cornerbacks as well. So for Texas to make that leap, obviously we know Manny Muhammad's going to be that guy on one side of the field. Who else makes that leap into trusting an entire third to that cornerback? Or if you spin down a safety, are they, recognizable enough to get over there, understand what the route concepts are, what the bodies are on that side? So that'll be interesting, right? I think at this point, you trust Manny Muhammad in space or in the boundary. Again, it's been Gavin Holmes running opposite of him so far, Javion Cole running a bit with that third team. It's Warren Roberson, Kobe Black right now. The three of them are shuffling in and out with one another in team periods. So it'll be interesting to see who takes that leap to become that guy, or is it Gavin Holmes, who we've heard, really positive things so far, in terms of taking that next step as a more often contributor this fall.
Yep, totally agree with you. Getting back to the questions here. We've had this a couple of times. Randy D. Jones says Bowden played running back some at Oregon State, but they think here that he won't be considered. Cisco Diaz similarly says it's Silas Bowden too small frame-wise to move to running back if need be. I believe so. I think you need more of a compact frame, right here, CJ?
Yeah, he's not. He wasn't a running back at Oregon State. He's not a running back here. I mean, he lined up 10 snaps of his almost 700 or 800 a year ago in the backfield, and even then, I think it was more so of what you saw from Jordan Whittington, who has 8 or 9 snaps in the backfield in 2023. So I wouldn't consider him a running back. I don't think Texas is considering him a running back. Could he be a candidate to receive handoffs at some point? Yeah, sure. Jet motion, orbit motion, any way in which you could see Texas kind of getting creative in that sense. Jordan Whittington had a handoff against Oklahoma on the goal line. People forget that.
Yeah, you're right.
So, it lost 4 yards, probably why we don't remember it. We like to flush out those bad plays against Oklahoma. But that versatility, that creativity will be a part of this offense, right? Silas Bolden's only about 5'8.5" on a good day, I would say, 160 pounds. So he's not a big body. And to your point, Rod, you don't see many guys running between the tackles or with the ball around the line of scrimmage in that component at all. Is he smaller than Marquise Goodwin?
Yes.
Marquise was,
Marquise was cut. Like, I remember being like up close and personal with Marquise. I was doing sideline back then. Marquise was cut. Like, he was. So Silas Bolden is not cut. He's just small. Like, he's smaller than Xavier Worthy, and he's not like cut up small. No, he's just small. When you guys see him, y'all gonna be like, "What? No way!" But then, like I said, he passes the eye test. No need to be. He spud web to me. Like, I'll see him and I'll be like, "No, there's no damn way that dude's playing in the league. No way he's an all-star." And then you see him play, and you see him jump, and you go, "Okay, I get it. That's Silas Bowden." The only receiver that we found, and I believe my man, I believe this was Bobby Burden was the one. We were texting with Bobby Burden, and you were on that text, right? Didn't it? What's the young man's name? Is it Tony Jones?
Tony Jones.
That's the only receiver.
I had to Google him, Rod. I didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. I want to say that's the only receiver that we've been able to find in Texas history that was just as small, probably smaller than Silas Bowden. And it was his name is Tony Jones. He played in the, I want to say it was like 80s. With Texas. He was drafted in 1990, so he played in the mid to late 80s. He was 5'7", 142 pounds, guys. 5'7", 142 pounds. And the truth is, CJ looking at Silas Bowden, they say he's 5'8", but they're being generous. They say he's 160, but they might be being a little generous. He probably could be closer to Tony Jones's actual, measurables. But at 5'7", 142, drafted in the 6th round, though, to play in the league, got drafted by the Love You Blue Oilers and played for them for a couple of years, played in Atlanta, then went back to the Oilers. Was a hell of an athlete, though, honestly.
Look at that.
Yeah, tiny dude, but was a hell of an athlete. Ended up, was a 3-sport athlete in high school.
5'7", 142. Holy cow.
Like, he make it to the league like that. Drafted in the league. Unbelievable. Yeah, there you go, man.
That's when they didn't lie on the roster charts either, Rod.
That's true. Because I don't know why they still do what they do. They were lying when Mac Brown, God bless him. I think they had Rod B at like 5'10", something like that. I was 5'8", but that's okay. Hey, every inch counts, as every man knows. But yeah, Tony Jones, man, he may be the second smallest receiver in Texas football history behind Tony Jones. But if he's as good as Tony Jones, I'll take it. Tony Jones was really good. He also ran track. He ran at 200 meters at Texas. So he was a 3-sport star in high school, 2-sport star at Texas. Ran track, ran a 20.2 in 200 meters. That's the best comp that Bobby Burden, I think, threw out there. That's the best comp I've seen for Silas Bowden. Because other than that, I haven't seen any.
You don't see many of them.
No. Cavante Turpin. Some people threw out Cavante Turpin. Remember him? He was a small dude.
Turpin's small. He, again, a little bit more compact, right? He's about 5'9", 175. But very much the same with the ball in their hands, right? They very elusive, very quick twitch. They can make you miss in a phone booth, as they say. It's funny. I actually, Rod, you talk about some of my, gambling habits here. Every Sunday for the Cowboys, I bet Cavante Turpin to score an anytime touchdown, because anytime he's got the rock in his hands, you feel like he could make magic happen. And more times than not, he only sees time in special teams on return. So it's always a losing bet, but man, it's fun when he's got that ball for about 20 yards to see him kind of.
Yep.
I imagine Bowden will be very much the same,
especially as a returner. You're right about that. In the return game, I mean, he's electric. All right, good stuff there. Getting back to it, my man CB. What's up, CB? CB wants to know, Chris Bennett, does Sark's 1,000-yard rusher streak continue? Yeah, because he brags about this. Like, he's proud of that streak. CJ, he is. He continues.
I do, and I do because Texas, I mean, I've done the math a few times kind of to discredit the 1,000-yard mark in the NFL because I'm a hater at times. what is 1,000 yards in a 12-game season? That's significant, but we're expecting Texas to play beyond that, right? We're expecting Texas to play 14, maybe 15 games this year. So what does that mean? Well, that's about 56, 60 yards per game if that season expands. And I think we'd all agree, yeah, there will be some 100-yard rushing games for Jaden Blue this year. There was one a year ago. So I do think that 1,000-yard streak continues. Obviously, he'd need to stay healthy beyond Jaden Blue, who, if he goes down, God forbid, right, knock on wood, I don't know if you have a 1,000-yard rusher beyond that on roster. But again, that's an issue for way, way down the road. And of course, you'd have, you'd have to wait until, stuff hits the fan again. But I do see him, Jaden Blue, going for 1,100 or 1,200 this year.
I like that. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's some stock you should buy. And like you said, we all assuming they say he's healthy, but I'd buy that Jaden Blue stock. I mean, people forget at one point, this dude, wasn't he rated like the number 1 running back in the country at one time?
Right, and that's the other thing I wanted to mention. He's always been a great talent at the running back spot. Now that you're finally getting to see it, all it's going to take really for him to accomplish, that mark for what he's supposed to average to get to 1,000 yards per game, right, is one run. We saw it against Texas Tech. One little sliver, and that speed, no one's catching up to it. That's legit 10-2. And he took, 3 steps and was in the secondary against Texas Tech on that 67-yard touchdown. No one even was within 20 yards of him by the time that he hit the end zone. So that home run ability, I wanted to ask you this. Who's Bijan, maybe, Jonathan Brooks, not so much, Deontay Foreman, perhaps. Who's had the best home run kind of one cut and go ability at the running back spot that Texas has had over the last 10 years?
Oh, last 10 years. That is good. Last 10, the one cut and go. That is a good question.
Because it's the one cut ability plus the speed that allows you to, break away. We saw Jonathan Brooks a few times a year ago get chased down. Bijan, even at times, got fetched a little bit, right? One cut and go, and you're
gone. And nobody's catching him.
I think Jonathan or Jaden Blue might be in that.
That's a good point, because Jamal Charles was like that, right? Jamal Charles was like that. It's like he's cut, he's gone. Like you ain't gonna catch him. It's sayonara. Yeah, that's a great point about that. I'm not sure they've had many guys like that in the last decade.
Which is unique because, we talked about it earlier, right? Their success in the running back department statistically, has been tremendous. Deontay Foreman, he rushed for 2,100 yards, won the Doak, but I know he had a lot of long touchdowns that year, specifically again against Texas Tech. Seems to be a theme. I need to add that for the schedule here soon. But he doesn't, to me, come off as a blazer, if you will.
No, that's a great point. I'm with you on that. I'm thinking about it, and there are not many that are just once he breaks away, it's gone. You might as well say, So I gotta say Deontay. Deontay was it's probably the most underrated, one of the most underrated running backs in Texas football history. People always forget about how good Deontay Foreman was because the team wasn't good. So they forget about how good he was because the team wasn't good.
He too just went down, I believe, in training camp. So wishing Deontay Foreman a speedy recovery. I believe I forget which team he's at, but I saw him in the news recently. So hopefully, other Texas running backs and players will be able to stay healthy going into the season.
All right, good stuff there. How about this one from Jeff? Jeff, thank you for the question. Will Sark run more? Rod's favorite scheme. Empty backfield with Baxter out. He should. This is my theory with Sark and the run game now. Sark, and I've always said this about Sark's a moderate, right? And I'm not talking about politically or anything. He's a moderate in terms of he likes balance in his offense. He wants balance. He strives for it. And that's why he's always balancing about, the running game. And he wants to make sure. That's why he doesn't like to almost to overuse certain plays and concepts, even though I'll tell you guys like, hey, he should use this concept or play more. Look at the success rate. Look at the yards per play. But he only runs a little bit. Like think about the 2-back set in the Washington game. He ran it 9 times in the whole game, 7 times on one drive. The first drive you scored on, and you averaged 10 yards per play on it. And you only ran it twice the rest of the game. Why? In your opening script, you knew it was going to work. You put it in the script, 7-play drive, went down the field, scored, and then boom. You thought, okay, pony package. To hell with my script, to hell with balance, to hell with any of that. They can't stop it. We're going to run it down their throats. They figure out a solution. But he didn't. right? Because Sark likes balance. He's like, no, we ran enough of that. Let's run some more stuff. And it's like, no. Be an extremist in that situation. Be an extremist and just say, to hell with it. If they can't stop it, we're going to do it all day, every day. And he didn't do that. So my point is that he likes balance. And with throwing out the empty formation, I think that's an example, I think, where he needs to be an extremist. And I think that they'll be tested this year. It's this season, when he wants to be extreme about certain concepts and certain ideas. And empty formation is actually one of them. You got a ton of speed, and Jaden Blue lined up in the slot is a nightmare. You've already started training him, and I know this because they were talking about it, as a weapon in the passing game, because that was going to be the kind of the compliment he was going to be to Cedric Baxter and the power running game, was he was going to add a compliment as a weapon in the passing game, even with some downfield routes. So he can do that. Amari Niblack, he's a matchup nightmare. You could put an 11 personnel group out there and end up going empty, which, by the way, we started the Alabama game. Your first play was empty with Cedric Baxter on the field. Empty works, guys. But my point is, you can get more extreme with that. And in the SEC, I've been doing the research. I believe empty formation is pretty much flatlined, like it hasn't increased or decreased, and not a lot of teams are running a ton of empty. In the SEC, you should start studying the trends that are flat and the trends that are on the downward, kind of a downward trajectory, and you should start doing more of that. Whatever the SEC is unfamiliar with, remember Nick Saban said, oh man, I hate squeeze splits. Why? Because it's tough on my pattern match coverages. Hate squeeze splits. Why does he hate squeeze splits? Yes, he hates playing Sark, because Sark runs a lot of condensed, compressed sets, because he doesn't see it in the SEC a lot. He doesn't see it as much. When you say Sark, it's one of his conceptual signatures. You're going to see it a ton. So look at things like that, like empty formation, like condensed and compressed sets, and become an extremist. Look at in the SEC, early down pass rate. In early game, early down pass rates hovering around 45%. Sark should be at 55, near 60%. Early game, early down pass rate, which, by the way, sometimes he is actually creatively when he's in his bag in big games. Shock the SEC, force the SEC to adapt to you. Like, the question that this season will be, is the SEC going to have to adapt to Steve Sarkisian, or is Steve Sarkisian going to be adapting to the SEC? Your hope is the former, all right, that the SEC has to adapt to Sark. And I think that's the aggressive attitude he needs to go into the SEC with. There's a great line from a movie. You ever seen it's called The Watchmen. You ever seen The Watchmen? You ever seen that? So it's like a comic book movie. It's a great line from one of the characters. He goes to jail and he tells all the people in jail, he's like, hey man, I'm not stuck in here with y'all. Y'all stuck in here with me. Sark needs to have that attitude about the SEC. All right. Right? It ain't that, hey, that I'm coming into the SEC and I got to adapt to y'all. No, y'all gonna have to adapt to me. And I think empty can be one of those concepts. I'll just give you a real quick stat about empty. The last 3 games of the season, last year, empty formation. That's Washington, that's Oklahoma State in the Big 12 title game, and Texas Tech. 76% completion percentage, those last 3 games, over 12 yards per attempt. Your explosive play rate was above 30%. Your first down rate was above 50%. Quinn is not usually comfortable in empty because he doesn't get through progressions quick enough. And sometimes he holds on to the ball a little bit longer. Sack rates should drop out of empty, and sometimes his sack rates go up. He was only sacked twice out of empty in the last 3 games. Probably still a little bit too much. But if he really can pick up where he left off last year in empty formation, it should definitely be something that Sark increases in usage. It should.
It should, and I'm with you. I wanted to ask you this question when you were talking about the pony package against Washington, and maybe some of these formation looks in which Sarkisian must feel, in my eyes, a bit of comfort to go into those schemes, right? Texas against Washington, what were they doing? They were matching what Washington did, right? Washington got up, Texas had to come back and even it up. Washington got up again, Texas, it was up to them to come match it. You didn't see a whole lot of that pony package consistently throughout the game, especially in the second half, because Texas was playing from behind. If you go 5 out all too often, Rod, do you think that's something, whether it be 5 out or the pony package, with this new revamped Texas running back room, that Sarkisian and this offense could deploy at any moment in a game? Or is it something that maybe they only throw out there when they're 7, 10, 14 points up on an opponent?
That's good. I think it's matchup specific. If you're hunting a certain matchup that you want in the game, and I think you can use it early. Honestly, it worked really well in the Washington game. Washington game. I mean, you were in 2020. You were 4 or 5 in that Washington game, throwing out of empty formation. I mean, so they didn't run it a lot. That's probably you probably should be, I don't know, somewhere between 5 to 10 snaps of the game, in my opinion, because I think it could be really advantageous to you because you got a veteran quarterback and then you got a lot of weapons in the passing game. But I want to be extreme in it in the sense that he uses it as much, if not more, than anybody in the SEC. But I don't want him to be egregious to the point where it becomes something that's for Texas. It could backfire because you could be using it too much, overindulging. Yeah, but I just want to. I think it's a really successful concept for Texas, and I think you got to get more creative now to close the gap because you lost some talent. So now you're going to fill in that talent that you lost, that gap. You're going to compensate with scheme advantages and strategy advantages, like empty. All right, good stuff, guys. Good question there. Let's getting back to it. One question here for the season. Kobe wants to know for the season, Quinn passing yards over under 2850. 2,850 yards. CJ clearly says over.
Well over.
Well over. Wow. Well over. That means he's got to stay healthy every game. He's
got to stay healthy every game. But two, I mean, what was Quinn at a year ago? Maybe 23. I've looked at these numbers so often that I've already lost them. But Quinn a year ago, I thought that there were plenty of games where Texas maybe didn't execute early in games, right? You look at the Rice game, you look at the Wyoming game, games in which maybe there wasn't a lot of continuity early for this team to put together big-time scoring drives early. I don't think that'll be the case this year. I think Quinn will be the one leading the drives with these wide receivers playing catch-up to him, which is kind of what you want as a quarterback, as well as the fact that I think Texas will execute better in the red zone. So I know that's only 20 yards, but you'll certainly see them, add up time and time again with some passing touchdowns. His passing touchdowns will certainly be improved from a year ago as well, where I think he only had 21, maybe 22. So it wasn't great in terms of statistically in 2022. I think he's in that category of hitting, here we go, 3,400 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So, yeah, he easily cleared it last year. I think 3,800's in play this year. I think 4,000's in play this year. Again, if Texas plays 14 games, I think that's easily attainable at 280 yards per game, basically. That's something Steve Sarkisian and Quinn have been able to do very often. Now, the key to that, as we've talked about, having a running game, playing that complementary balance that Texas likes to do under Sark, that will help Sarkisian open up everything beyond the field for Quinn Ewers. I see 38 as the floor right now for Quinn.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a good point. And one of my theories is that, like I said, it's going to be a multi-pronged, solution to the Cedric Baxter problem, the CJ Baxter issue. And I think early down pass rate has to increase. So right now he's probably hovering around, a little over 50% early down pass rate, between 50 and 55%. He should be above 55%, probably hovering close to 60% early down pass rate. It'll balance out by the time the game gets into the fourth quarter because Sark wants to open up the game with the pass and close games out with the run, but put the ball in the hands of your third-year starting quarterback in the system that he's really comfortable with, and essentially using concepts or an extension of the passing game, screens and your RPOs and your quick game. I think that's where they should go with some of the touches that we're going to go to Cedric Baxter. Well, just put it in the hands of my man Quinn, and then those numbers you're talking about should go even higher. Help you get in the Heisman conversation too. All right, getting back to the questions here. Thank you guys for the questions. Someone who says, "What's up, fellas?" So Michael early on in the show. What's up, fellas? With the D tackle recruiting woes, do you see Texas moving Lance Jackson inside as a contingency plan? I feel like Jackson and Sharma would be one hell of a duo. Thank you, Michael, for the question. I'll throw it in CJ. What are your thoughts, CJ?
Yeah, it's not outlandish to think that, right? And what might give me more of a reason to say that is when we talked to Nick Townsend after his most recent visit at the end of July, he said, yeah, Jeff Banks was on his honeymoon, so I didn't get to talk to him. But who I did talk to was the rest of that Texas staff, who included PK and some of those defensive coaches who I think they're going to try to give him his chance or an opportunity to play both sides originally. Eventually, he'll have to pick offense or defense, or the staff will do it for him. But if that's a conversation being had, and you have, Rod, you've seen the tape for Nick Townsend. He's as physical and explosive as it gets at the edge position. That frees up a spot in your recruiting class to go then use maybe Lance Jackson, who got up to 270, 275 pounds this offseason, to maybe add 20 pounds and come in as a 3 tech at 295, 300 pounds to start. It's all, kind of hypothetical here. I love Lance Jackson as an athlete. I think long-term, his highest ceiling is at the edge spot. I think he's quicker, faster, and more explosive than what you see with a Ethan Burke, while all maintaining similar, even longer measurables when it comes to height, weight, length. Mm-hmm. So that to me gives you an idea of the overall ceiling that he could have as an edge rusher. And I think at the end of the day, you'd rather have an elite number 1 edge rusher than say a really, really good interior defensive lineman, just because they're on the field longer and they can make more impactful negative plays defensively off the edge. Would you take, I don't know, a good hypothetical here, but, a Jackson Jeffcoat off the edge or a T'Vondre Sweat, I'd probably take the Jeffcoat because, again, you're getting 12-plus sacks a year, and that one of those sacks, 2 of those sacks are going to be a fumble regardless, and he's going to be on the field for all 3 plays of a given drive. I think I would.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because, and obviously not get too deep into the weeds in the football theory here, there's actually a conundrum the NFL's wrestling with right now. Essentially, what a lot of the theorists are throwing out there is that we're going to value interior pressure and interior war daddies and pass rushers over the edge guys, which is right now you have, I think, more interior D linemen making $20+ million a year than edge rushers in the NFL because the ball's out so quickly. Quick game is 60% of NFL offenses. So they're saying, I'm paying this edge rusher all this damn money. He can't even get there. Didn't have time to get there. Ball's out too damn quick. All right. But the guy inside, if he can get a push, then it disrupts the quick game, number 1, because, all right, the quarterback, his vision is obstructed. And number 2, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and he has a better chance of getting there quicker and disrupting things than the guy on the edge. So that's actually something the NFL's wrestling with too. But the guys on the edge, like you said, they get home. When they get there, they get sacks, splash plays, and negative plays. Although you may be getting the pressure from the interior, getting back to Texas's conundrum from last year, are you getting the splash plays? Are you getting the negative plays? And Texas had as much pressure as anybody in the Power 5 last year. They were in the top 10 in creating pressure, but the pressure was coming from the interior, and it wasn't resulting in negative plays and splash plays. So you're right. I mean, I don't know who's right, but that is a theory. That is a discussion.
It feels like depending on which position has been hotter, more recent. That's kind of where it sits, Texas and NFL wise. Of course, Chiefs just went on a tremendous run with Chris Jones being that centerpiece. So it's easy to point there. Texas having that centerpiece with Sweat and Murphy. I don't know. It's tough. Again, that's why we sit back here and we're not in the decision-making seat, right?
It's fun for us to talk about when your job's on the line as a result of that issue. That's a different discussion altogether. But yeah, that's why Texas experiment this year is going to be interesting. They went from the best D tackle room arguably in college football the last 2 years, right? You had Keandre Coburn and more Ojimo, and then Sweat and Murphy. You had 4 D tackles drafted in the last 2 years, and last year you had a first and a second rounder. So nobody's D tackle room arguably was deeper than Texas, maybe Georgia, right? But that's about it in the last 2 years. And although you were getting consistent pressure, you were top 10 in the Power 5 in creating pressure those last 2 years. It didn't result in those negative plays. And the hope is that this season you're deep on the edges, as deep as you've ever been, and that's where the pressure is going to come from. So we'll actually get a chance to see what the results of that experiment are. Is that pressure going to be better? Is it better for the entire defense and the back seven and pass coverage when the pressure is isolated on the edges as opposed to being in the interior? It's good stuff. Yeah. Yep. Todd Lacey, this actually adds to that conversation. He said, until Kenny Baker demonstrates development abilities, Texas does not get the buy-in from elite interior defensive line recruits, in his opinion. What are your thoughts? Because this is kind of related to what we were just talking about and developing those D tackles into being every down players.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think this cycle is a bit nuanced, and you consider where Texas had hopes of landing defensive linemen. One, Kenny Baker started from behind, right? He comes in early February. Texas had already held its big junior day, January 20th, and he had not yet been hired, right? So he's playing from behind then. Texas then targets kids from Georgia, Florida, California. Only one kid from Texas that they brought in for an official visit, and he ends up not even taking it to go out to see LSU. And then they come back around and invite DJ Sanders to campus again. I think it was a down year in state, whereas you would have had that advantage as the flagship program of the state of Texas with your in-state crop. So Texas didn't necessarily pursue a whole lot of the guys there. They wanted to go big game hunting, but the problem is when you go big game hunting, Rod, it takes much, much more, effort and, really success in that recruiting trail to land those national guys that are being courted by LSUs, Oregons, USCs, Florida States, Alabama, Georgias. Everybody's on a similar playing field there. What does Texas do to keep, that kind of leg up? Well, when it's in-state guys, we're 2 hours away. Come see us every weekend. Mom and dad can come hang out in Austin every single weekend without needing to hop on a flight. Texas didn't have that luxury this year. And so that's unfortunately where some of these losses in the recruiting trail on the defensive line come from. Baker's a really positive guy. When you watch him, you see the energy, you see, some of that enthusiasm that goes into molding young defensive linemen. So that's where I see the development will come after a year. It'll certainly help in terms of recruiting, but long-term as well, just being able to see, these young guys come to a game, see how the defensive line plays, and then relaying that back to how Kenny Baker coaches, that'll be big as well. So I see both sides right now. I just think a little bit as, it was a tough, game for him to come in on behind the 8 ball, if you will.
Yeah, no, it's a good. Yeah, you're right about that. And following Bo Davis, by the way, that's not following what some people believe in. Sarkis says the best D-line coach in the country. All right, before we answer some more questions, I know we're getting close to the end of it here. Let's give a shout out to another one of our sponsors. We are very excited about Flat Creek being a part of the Owen, Texas football family. I've been out there to Flat Creek Estate Winery. Trust me, folks, it is worth the trip. Did you know the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the vineyard closest to Austin? That's right. Flat Creek Estate Winery is just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine. Super Texan is actually my wife's favorite wine right now. Super Texan is now available at your local Specs, so give it a try. Of course, Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend, perfect for a date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. Go check it out for yourself. That's flatcreekestate.com. That's flatcreekestate.com. Also, I would recommend go to Specs, or you can go to Central Market. Actually, my wife is doing some shopping there and found her favorite wine, the Super Texan, there from Flat Creek at Central Market. So they also have a great selection there. They got the Pinot Grigio. If you can find the rosé is fantastic, especially during those hot Texas summer days. Very refreshing. But go check out their selection at flatcreekestate.com. Thank you very much, Flat Creek. We really appreciate your guys' support and for sponsoring the Winning Drive. All right, getting back to the questions here. How about this one? This is from Tyrese. Tyrese, thank you very much for the question. Tyrese Barmer says, CJ Rod, the more I watch tape of Kaliq Lockett, I see Keon Coleman from Florida State as a comp, especially the ball skills and catch radius. Thoughts? That's a good one. Tyrese, well done. I had not thought about that when we were talking a lot about Kaliq Lockett yesterday. That is, I want to say even the measurables wise, I want to say Keon Coleman's around 6'2.5", 6'3". And Kaliq Lockett's around 6'2". I think Keon Coleman might be a little bit thicker. I think he's like right around 220. So Kaliq Lockett's probably got to gain some weight, but gain probably 20-something pounds. But I can see that happening. But in terms of their playing style, the way they attack the football, play big body football, catch radius, I'm with you. That's a really good one, Tyrese. Well done.
Yeah, Keon maybe has an inch or two on Kaliq, but again, to your point, Rod, he's got tremendous ball abilities, to go up, high point the football, contested catches, as you see there. The body control is very impressive. Keon Coleman probably has had, several plays over the last year that would have been in the conversation for catch of the year at Florida State. So it makes all the sense in the world, right, to make that comparison. Again, the deep ball ability from Kaliq Lockett is where you really see him start to stand out against the high school level. If he can add to his speed even just a little bit, he's going to be a big-time player for the Longhorns during his career in Austin.
Yep. I said in my notes he's one of the best deep ball receivers I've watched on film in the last couple of years. They're just really natural when the balls, when they're running vertically and the ball's thrown in there, whether he's got to jump up and time the vertical leap, or whether he is positioning his body to try to position himself to make the windows for the quarterback a little bit bigger. He does a really good job of that. All right, thank you we appreciate that, Tyrese. Let's get to Cisco's question. Who has been starting opposite Malik Muhammad? CJ, I think it's Gavin Holmes. Am I wrong about that?
It's been Gavin Holmes. Yep. So far, it's been Gavin Holmes, Kobe Black, Warren Roberson, Javion Cole. They've all been rotating in and out of that second squad. Jade Barron, Jalen Gilbo, kind of going tit for tat a little bit, right, with that first group and second group stars position. We'll see what kind of impact Jade Barron makes as an outside cornerback as well. I've yet to see it in our media availability sessions. But again, continue to hear that as a possibility long-term for the Longhorns this year.
They don't want you to see it, CJ. They're saving it. They don't want you to see that. They don't need y'all printing that out. They don't need that on CJ's Twitter account so that all the SEC coaches can see. They're saving that one. But we know it's happening. Like PK's already said it. Jadae's said it. Jadae said it.
Those SEC offensive coordinators are going to have to tune on Texas football, the live streams today and tomorrow to hear about it. That's doing a smart way. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, exactly. They want. It's like, nah, don't make it easy on them because, like I said, Jadae admitted that they were cross training him, and PK admitted that if Jalen Gilbo continues to impress, they're going to move Jadae Barron around. So to me, even though we haven't seen it, I know it's happening, and it's a smart thing to do. By the way, smart thing for them to do. I like that. Speaking of that secondary, we got a question from Ryan. Ryan from Shiner. What's up, Ryan? To get a break from talking offense for a minute, let's talk dime package. I never hear dime mentioned, but should Texas employ it? Who would be your 6? Oh, now it's easier because of Gilbo. Gilbo made that question a lot easier. It's going to be Malik Muhammad's out there. Derek Williams got to be part of that with me. Makuba's got to be part of that with me. Jadae Barron and Gilbo, and I think Gavin Holmes. Is that your 6?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right. I don't know how often we'll see a dime package this year.
Yeah.
You'll see the nickel more often than you'll see anything else, right? With the Gilbo or Barron at the star, Barron maybe even outside. I think at times you could even use Anthony Hill as, kind of a faux defensive back, if you will, right? The way
Blackwell in which like that. They use Mo Blackwell for that sometimes.
A converted safety as well from his high school days. So they can play in space. I've seen Anthony Hill play 7-on-7 so often now that at times I forget that he is just a true middle linebacker piece, but he moves so well. He understands quarterback eyes and route concepts that, in a way it's a dime package without, being a dime, if you will.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, no, I call them spread babies. They grew because I wasn't a spread baby. I grew
in Texas specifically, yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. They grew up 7-on-7s all the time. I grew up going up against triple option offenses still. When I got to the Big 12, Nebraska was still running the triple option. So I wasn't a spread baby. But these guys, they're like Neo in the Matrix. They understand route combinations. They understand the subtle nuances of the passing game because they grew up with it. They grew up watching passing game, and it's a lot different growing up in a spread era. So I call them spread babies, and you will see a linebacker every now and then. He's just comfortable in space. He's not uncomfortable. He's moving back there like a DB. His hips are fluid. Got loose hips. You're like, man, this guy moves really well. Yeah, because he's been defending spread offenses his whole life. He ain't been playing downhill football like that. So no, I'm with you. I see those guys all the time. All right, let's get to another question here. How about this one from Hookem Johns? Says, could you guys see any Matthew Golden in the backfield? He's a baller and makes plays. Thoughts? I know y'all really want a wide receiver in that backfield. From what I can get, and by the way, Matthew Golden isn't a crazy idea. He does work well. I mean, he does move well with the ball in his hands, and he does have great vision. That's why he's a great kickoff returner. Body wise, is his body compact enough for it? That I don't know. I think Ryan Niblett, I've seen on social media, a lot of Longhorn fans have pointed out, hey, go look at his background, look at his physique, look at his frame. He might be the guy. By the way, he's not included in the top 6 of the circle of trust for the wide receivers. He might be the guy. Wants a way to see the field. This could be an opportunity, and he may have the body, and he may have now the incentive to do so. So I've heard that a lot. I've heard that thrown out there, CJ, a little bit too.
Yeah, I would be interested in seeing what Niblett could do. Again, I think that wide receiver room's pretty crowded for him to make a push. Well, we just haven't heard his name a whole lot in that wide receiver conversation. Matthew Golden, again, great vision from kickoffs, a little bit more compact that you like, right? 195, 200 pounds listed on the roster. So gives you enough meat on the bone to protect him going between the tackles. But it'd have to be a very unique situation in my eyes for him to be uprooted and moved to the backfield full time.
Agreed. Rick here says the issue is pass pro. Could any of these wide receivers block better in pass pro than any of the current running backs? Unlikely. Yeah, that's a good point too. And like I said, ball security for me is big. We don't talk about it a lot, but last year Texas, I believe, if you go look at it, and I got this stat, the Longhorns, their fumble rate, even if you take Quinn Ewers' fumbles out of it, the fumble rate was more than triple the SEC average, according to StatCat. Had 9 fumbles recovered by opponents of the, I believe it was 19 fumbles they had total. Lost the game against Washington because of fumbles by your running backs, by the way. Ball security for a young running back's got to be huge. So to me, that's one of the things that could really hold back one of those young guys in their development from seeing the field. All right, before we get to a couple of last questions here, let's thank our last sponsor of the evening. We're really grateful that Hargrove Roofing now is a part of the On Texas football family. Thanks to them. By the way, courtesy of Hargrove Roofing, on Mondays, we got lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee that joins us, and that's always a good time. But if you want someone to come out and look at your roof, folks, Hargrove Roofing, they are a great company. Thank you very much to our friends over at Hargrove Roofing with offices all over Louisiana, Arkansas, and of course, the great state of Texas, including Austin, Texas. Hargrove Roofing will take care of all of your roofing needs. Plus, they're Longhorn friendly, folks, with partners like our kicker, Bert Auburn, and also my man, Stevie Lee, lifetime Longhorn. They are the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there. Call them today for a free roof inspection. Hargrove Roofing, know who's on your roof. Hargrove Roofing, 512-645-3202, or visit hargroveroofing.com. And we're really grateful for them for being a part of the On Texas football family and sponsoring the winning drive. All right, last couple of questions before we get out of here. Thank you guys for your participation. Joseph here says, no injury is good, but it happening this early provides some advantage for Sark and the season ahead. Yes, I mean, during the season, injuries to starters, of course, are tougher because you only got a week, less than that, to come up with a new identity, depending on who that injury was to acclimate and adapt to it. And by then, I think one of the advantages is maybe by then you have manufactured more depth at that position. But I definitely think you're right, Joseph, that now Sark has got 3 weeks to come up with a new identity for the run game and to adapt schematically, strategically to the loss of CJ Baxter. So, yeah, definitely an advantage happening now. It sucks either way. But
no way to hide that, but at least you have 3 weeks, right, to figure out what your pieces are going to be.
Agreed. Another one here, Jedi Master Bevo says, yes, C4 injury is big, but it won't break this season. Texas still a 10-plus win team. Depth. Yeah. I think we all agree with that. This is no excuse to derail the season by any means. It's just a very unfortunate injury, but that's what the depth is all about. And Cisco, last question, he wants to know, out of all the recent transfers, who has surprised you the most out of the transfers?
I like it. Yeah.
Silas Bowden has surprised a lot of people. Like I said, when y'all see him, y'all gonna be like, this don't make no sense because he's the smallest player that I've ever seen in a Texas uniform. I didn't see Tony Jones back in the day. He's the smallest guy I've ever seen in a Texas uniform. So he's probably the biggest surprise to me, CJ, so far.
I'll still go with Trey Moore. Just the overall consistency and impact that we've heard of so far. For him to be giving Kelvin Banks some fits, in pass protection, that's all I got to know that he's going to be a big-time player for Texas this year.
Yeah, to me, that's why he wasn't a surprise for me, because the guy had double-digit sacks and tackles for loss. Actually, he's a baller. He's a baller, period. I think he's proven that, no question about it. All right, folks, before we get out of here, now let me remind you, now's a great time to join the exclusive Longhorn community at ontexasfootball.com. Become an OTFOG. You can talk with us each and every day, get your questions answered. Plus, there's even more news and commentary. You can join over at On Texas Football, become an OTFOG, and you can get that special. There it is right there. You want to make sure you can get that subscription, the annual subscription. You get $20 off when you become an OTFOG. So instead of that $60 a year, you get $39.95. Can't beat that or you can get a monthly subscription for $5.95 if that suits you a little bit more. So for great insider info, don't forget to become an OTFOG. Use that promo code. Just costs you less than $40 a year. Trust me, as a ball on the budget, that is one hell of a bargain with how hard these gentlemen on this channel work each and every day for you. Thank you to my man Matthew behind the scenes, doing a great job as always. He's a real MVP. Thank you to my man CJ. We appreciate all the knowledge, CJ. Thank you for all the super chats, guys, and thank you for all the questions. Your participation means everything to us. Thanks to our sponsors, South Point Dodge, Flat Creek Estate Winery. Thank you to Hargrove Roofing. The new kids on the block are really excited about that partnership. And don't forget, become an OTFOG. Someone says Flat Creek also has a great disc golf course too. There you go. Hey, Big Sheezy. Appreciate that. I'm telling you, it's nice. Get out there, Flat Creek State. It's beautiful. Your significant other will thank you later. All right. Hey, Hook 'em baby. We love you guys too, man. No doubt about it. Y'all make my day each and every. So appreciate y'all. For Matthew, for CJ, for the On Texas Football family, for all of our sponsors. Until next time, Hook 'em horns.